we're here with the third installment of my raid guides to Nyalotha for Raid Finder and generally normal, about the same mechanics. We're on Shadahar the Insatiable, and so he's a dog with 2 heads and, you know, like 20 eyes, like everything else in the dungeon, the raid. As a tank, you want to make sure that neither tank has crush or dissolve at the same time. You want to avoid his insatiable breath attacks, and the damage increases noticeably after frenzy, of course, with most bosses. Damage dealer, a DPS, you know, you're putting up them big numbers. You want to use any ability that you can reduce damage from his debilitating spit. You want to avoid the insatiable breath like the tanks, and you want to move away from other players when he's targeted you with living miasma to not give everybody a slurry outburst. Healers, debilitating spit will inflict high single target damage, then changes to damage multiple targets as it spreads through the group. You want to also avoid the insatiable breath, and just be aware that the damage increases greatly after frenzy. Now the fight itself is basically, he moves from side to side, eating the carcasses, and his body changes and he does a little more damage per phase. That's pretty much it. It's a very easy, straightforward fight, and yeah, get your free loot, go out there and get it. So now we're on to Drestigath. And Drestigath, I think, so far has been one of the most complicated bosses in LFR, as it requires a few mechanics, and you do kind of have to work together, and your gear score doesn't matter so much. So even if you are slightly over geared, maybe you're just looking for one item, it impacts the raid if you don't follow the mechanics. Basically, Drestigath heals. You can't kill him if you don't get the debuff. Basically, he summons eyeballs and tentacles. You have to kill them to get a debuff, and that damage will stick to Drestigath. All the other damage you do, he basically heals. DPS's main priority is basically adds, while one tank at all times has to be on Drestigath. The tanks will get a debuff that will explode and deal damage. But what you do is you run that circle over to the lowest appendage. It blows up and it deals damage to the appendage, hopefully killing it, and then everybody can run back, damage the boss, and then the other tank will get the debuff and they will run to an appendage, give it the dot, and the tanks basically just switch off, vice versa. So Drestigath does have a Void Glare, an Entropic Crash, and a Mutterings of Insanity. Towards the end of the fight, you will get blue moving void appendages coming up through the ground. You just avoid those. The Void Glare, you obviously get out of that. He just flops on the floor and fires a beam. And then he also does an Entropic Crash, which is basically he just slams the floor and deals damage to people that are under it. Healers, you just want to be aware of the Obscuring Cloud. It'll block line of sight. Throws of Agony can cause substantial damage, and then again the Void Glare and Entropic Crash, and Mutterings of Insanity immobilizes you for 5 seconds. They all increase based on how many of each type of appendage is active, so just be aware of those mechanics. Other than that, if your group can manage to get the debuff, damage the boss, go kill adds, get the debuff again, damage the boss, go kill adds, get the debuff again, damage the boss, fight's easy peasy. The problem is sometimes people don't know that, they don't use it, they don't do it, they just kind of want to spank the boss, get the loot. It's not going to work for this one. Il'gynoth, Corruption Reborn. So Il'gynoth is a basically just an upper body of a winged demon out of a hole in the ground. He has 3 phases. The first phase is just tanking. He will shoot a void beam. After 2 stacks, the tanks should switch as it increases the damage you take. Then he will drop into the pool, and in LFR there's just 2 organs that open up, and you need to DPS them and interrupt them. They will spawn blood oozes. You kill the blood oozes and they will do an AoE damage. Damage dealers will get a touch of the corruptor, which bends you to his will, and you try to spread his influence. It reduces your health by 30% to 30% when they're afflicted by it. So that will come into play if there's too many bloods of Nyalotha, because if you get the hemorrhage while you're at 30% health, you will probably die. He does it 3 times. You have to defeat each organ, basically 1, 2, 3, and then you'll end up killing him after the last organ. He does spawn void puddles on the ground. You want to stay out of those. Other than that, the fight is pretty straightforward. Just make sure the tanks are swapping, and then you'll be good to go. You'll be done skis. There, you're done the 3rd wing. It's on to the Carapace and N'Zoth himself. Check back next week. Do subscribe to the channel. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to know about. I'll do a quick video on them, dungeons, mythics, anything like that. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. Have a good day.